There we go. Camera's on. Hey, everybody. If you've already heard me discuss the boundaries and counselor self disclosure issue before, feel free to skip. But for those of you who haven't, this case of Josie does bring up an interesting sort of subplot to the whole thing. Is she asks you if you've ever been UA'd before or had to do that. It's a very humiliating experience for the client, especially at first. They do get used to it. They don't like it. It's a real reinforcer when the judge says, I'm going to reduce your UAs because it's like, oh, it's inconvenient to have to go there and be there and drop your drawers and all that stuff. So, we really want to reinforce once a client's been negative with their UAs, you start to reduce them. You put a little more faith in, they're not using. Um, that said, she asks if you've ever had one. I had advised several of you to be careful. It's what you call a slippery slope. Have you ever had a UA? Can turn into have you ever had an STD? Well, you're not going to answer the STD question. You're not going to, I would advise, as several of you did, dodging it. Dodge the specifics and go with what she's after. She's like, do you know how? What she's really asking is, do you know how humiliating this is for me? And you can validate that you do know that without saying that you've had that experience. Um, and see my response to that specifically on several posts in writing. The larger issue can be, have you ever been arrested? Did you ever have to go to court? Um, the Are you in recovery yourself? Do you know what it's like to be addicted? In all cases, what the client is usually, most usually, not always, what they're looking for is to gauge whether or not you understand where they're at. Do you know how they're feeling at that point? So we want to validate the feelings without providing personal information on ourselves. The best time to answer that kind of question from a client is before they ask it. Know your boundaries before you go into the clinical arena. Know what you will say about yourself and what you won't. Um, Counselor self disclosure can be a tool. There are times where you may want to make a point about yourself as a way in a way that's going to benefit the client, but also do so in a way that doesn't leave you feeling exposed, and be consistent across clients. If you tell one client that you've been UA'd, assume that somewhere out in the waiting room or in the private practice world or wherever, they're going to tell somebody else. So you want to be consistent. What do you want known about you out there? I mean, that's just a larger, clinical issue anyway of what does a client know? But like, where did you go to school? What was your GPA? They want to know, do you know what you're doing? They want to know, are you smart enough to deal with them? So kind of go for the second level of what it is that most clients are looking for. Now, there are other clients who really are going to try to take control of the relationship with you. They're going to want to ask the questions and have you provide the answers. Usually they're acting out of fear. They are not comfortable being in a position where somebody has power over them. And in a treatment court type situation, the counselor has some power. There's some legal stuff going on, and what you say can affect their life very powerfully. And we want to be respectful of that. So, those clients are going to come on a little bit stronger with, well, I'm not going to answer any of your questions, so you answer mine. And then you're into a whole different type of counseling with with an aggressive client. You'll need to hold your ground, of course, but also, again, go for the fear underneath it. It's like, why are you asking me all of this? What's the concern here? And, if you work those questions in enough, they'll come up with, well, you could really mess me up. And I don't know if I can trust you. You could really mess up my life. You could tell the judge anything about me, etc. So we've got to always go to that next level, get off of the surface, see what the feeling is underneath, try to go for that, protect your own boundaries, etc., etc. And very important in a legally charged environment like this. Great job on the posts. Little lecture just on boundaries and counselor self-disclosure. Hopefully that'll apply in other arenas for you as well.